I just moved house, and there are no women in this town other than me. On the day of the property viewing, that was the case. These streets were bursting with men, women, boys, and girls. It felt like any ordinary town. Cul-de-sacs branch off from the main strip. Cozy pockets of red brick homes and cobblestone streets. There was a local drinking hole named after some animal or monarch, amusing that it's often one or the other. Though I'm not calling the two things synonymous, it had every ingredient of a quintessentially British settlement. 1 month later, however, I returned to a very different place. Moving day. Moving day, Monday, as I recalled it. It was overwhelming for exactly 37 reasons. And the emptiness of the town didn't make the list. My ever-growing list of things to remember. What a waste of a day off, I thought. Anyway, I wasn't concerned by the lack of women. In fact, I hardly noticed the lifelessness at first. After all, I arrived a little after lunchtime on a weekday, so I assumed most people were at work. In place of its true name, I'll call the town Propagate. That word was written with blue paint on large, uneven capitals on a low-level wall. Several truant schoolboys sat atop that brick partition, which separated the small, detached house from the main road. A dozen legs swinging back and forth like a row of pistons, they had an odd energy, given they were rule breakers. An energy neither giddy nor intimidating. But the blank-eyed boys did keenly watch my car as it drove by. That sighting was only the first oddity. There was also the young man walking the cocker spaniel, the 5 elderly gentlemen at the bus stop, the neighbor standing with both arms around his 2 sons. They watched from the front lawn as I pulled into the driveway of my new home. As I said, I noticed the quietness, but it didn't concern me. The lack of women might trigger warning sirens in normal brains with little common sense. But I was completely oblivious, and I was stricken first time home or no with a bulky moving van though. Don't judge me yet. I'm not by any means the bluntest blade in the knife block, just the least even. I was hardly surprised by the autism diagnosis in high school, as I'd always been a little rusty when it came to, as my dad called it, the real world, people in politics, the fuzziness of social science. My mind has always belonged to rigid sciences. And let me put it this way. I have a PhD in chemical engineering, but I once let a tittering teenager and his backup hooded friends borrow my phone. Oh dear, of course, I'll let you ring your mother to pick you up, I obliviously said. That was how I waved goodbye to my brand new iPhone. I'm smart, dumb, or dumb smart. Take your pick. Stephen Hawking, the triumph school boys used to call me. It took their one collective brain cell to come up with it, but it was a good one. I'm surprised they even know what coking meant. Anyway, moving to Propagate, I was supposed to be a turning point. I was determined to prove everybody wrong. My friends in the city, my family back home, I wanted to show them that I wasn't socially stunned again. I had the stuff, whatever the stuff might be, the independence and street smarts of my peers. I suppose I turned 27 this year. Shout out to that gecko. So I knew it was time to make something of myself. And that certainly happened in Propagate. After only half an hour, the two movers had unloaded all of my belongings and they left me alone. I heard one of them mutter about a strange look from a neighbor. Keeping what will follow, they were right to flee. I spent the next few hours sorting through my belongings, but my mind soon started to wander. I needed something less mind-numbing to do, so I decided to spend the rest of my day exploring Propagate. I took a stroll to the nearest convenience store, hoping to familiarize myself with the layout of my new hometown. And as I left suburbia behind, Propagate's true nature revealed itself to me. I entered the main street littered with dozens upon dozens of townsmen, far more than there had been on my street. And there came a twisted feeling in my belly. Even an atypical mind like mine knows when it's unnumbered. It was an infestation of suited business type, schoolboy closters, and dog walkers. There was no longer any avoiding it. The feeling of ice dancing across my flesh. And once I realized that heads were swiveling to track my movements, I scurried across the road to enter a store on my right. Things were worse inside. On the street, there had been options, roads of escape, even as an autistic woman. I've acquired the social skills necessary to detect when the male gaze dips from icky to sticky, when it glues so industrially to your skin that you sense impending, inescapable danger, when you realize that the watching man or men might want to do more than look. That early evening, mere minutes before the sun merged with the horizon, I felt utterly and entirely alone. I had only an inch of daylight on my side. I didn't feel safe. I wasn't safe. And as I said, I had hoped things would be better inside the convenience store. But they weren't. I'd only thrust myself into a more claustrophobic arena of brawling ice. What terrified me so greatly was that the eyes hardly look eyes at all. Eyes can hurt you, but the town's many set of spears were alive. Hundreds of spears connected to one unified horror. And whatever thing followed me, disguised as countless pairs of pupils, it promised a nightmare. Would you rather be alone in the woods with a bear or a man? That question rang in my head, and I thought about a third option. Something neither man nor beast. Whatever that thing might have been, I was already alone with him. A supermarket worker named Tag reading Mike eyed me from a few yards away. He looked sick, not sick with lust, not even sick with a common cold. His eyes were swollen, appearing too large for the socket in which they lived, and his skin bore stretch marks as if bulging with the pressure of something. A terrible thing below Mike's flesh sitting alongside his skeleton and organs. Now, I have been stalked and even manhandled before. I wasn't new to the fear of strange men, but this was something else. A scenario above the pay grade of my primitive fear response. Strangers were stopping in their tracks. That was what unsettled me. It was if they had been skewered by pulse protruding from the ground, as if each man had been forced by something beyond his control, endlessly pivot to follow me with a cutting gaze. Touch, a static female voice called. Relief and pride simultaneously seized my body. Relief at having heard the voice of another woman, but pride answered the call with a shaking tongue, though I'd barely been aware of doing so. I was relieved to see that my screen read, "Chloe." "Nadia," my friend repeated. "Did you answer by accident? Let me talk a little louder." "Nadia, I'm trapped in your pocket. Help." I smiled, thankful tears collecting in my eyes, with Chloe's colorful voice to accompany me. I wasn't alone. Still quivering, I lifted the phone up to my ear. I didn't want my friend to worry about me. Didn't want her to know that I'd stumbled at the first order of independence like nearly every other adult in the world. I had to feign normality, putting on a brave voice took significant masking. But it was a skill that I'd mastered over the years. "Amir," I said before uttering a false laugh. "Sorry, it must have been my cat," Anne said. Chloe snorted. "Where are you, fish?" He stood me up. I thought. I'd invited my oldest, dearest friend to visit my new home after work. That was one of the 37 things that I was supposed to remember, but I'd entirely forgotten, as is typical of me. The serotonin overload of becoming a homeowner had wiped my brain. Happiness and fear frazzled my thoughts equally. "You forgot, didn't you?" asked Chloe. "No, I lied. I just nipped to the supermarket to get us food and drinks." "I like your story," she replied in a chipper. "It's okay, Nance. I forgive you. Just bring some vinyl back for your dear friend, okay?" She's shivering on the porch, talking about herself in the third person. I grinned, making my way down to the liquor aisle. Chloe's distracting voice enveloped me like a warm blanket. She helped me to temporarily forget about the many watching eyes, and I soothed the remaining aching just with a little sensory stimulation. Let my finger brush against the bottles of Savage Blanc on the middle shelf. Let my gaze brush against the price labels beneath. "I heard you, girl," my friend said, drooling over the deep, cheap brands. "It just seemed unnecessary to buy an expensive bottle," I pointed out. "They're all the same, really." Chloe groaned and replied, "They are not all the same. Do you need to come down there and pick for us?" "No," I inwardly pleaded, turning into my environment once more. As much as I craved for her company, I didn't fancy the idea of doubly hungry eyes salivating at the only signs of people alive. "I'll buy a good one, I promise. See you in 10 minutes or so." "Okay," Chloe said. "See ya." I wanted to scream for her to stay on the line, but my friend hung up before my lips had even parted. And then I returned to the reality of my situation. After I put my phone in my pocket, I scanned both ends of the shop. In the aisle adjacent to mine, an elderly gentleman was lightly tapping a box of blue with wrinkled fingers, but his eyes were facing me. I noticed his walking cane in the house below. He let it clatter to the floor at some point. His free hand hovered aimlessly, and his fingers were curling in a groping motion, not for the cane that he'd been holding for me. I drew blood from my bottom lip, tightly biting it to stifle a slight whimper of horror. Then I spun my head back to the line of liquor. After taking a mid-range wine, only wanted to get out of that place, I turned to leave, but my uncoordinated fingers knocked a bottle beside it. As it started to topple, I watched in panic, bombarded by a nightmarish vision of strong glass and red liquid, by a vision of every last townsman converging on my location to inspect the commotion. I was thankful, of course, when the wine did not fall. Thankful until I realized that the tilted bottles was suspended in midair. I realized that a set of bulky fingers was wrapped around it. The hand came from within the sea of bottles, and I know I shouldn't, by whose face was not revealed, for he rose far above the middle shelf. I saw only his midsection, an unbuttoned blazer and a second hand, an open palm frozen in the shape of a high fiber away. When the hand did move, it did not offer a friendly gesture. It started to walk and merrily run across the middle shelf. It started to cross the bridge between our two aisles, and it was not shooting towards the second toppling bar. It was shooting towards me. I screamed, clutched my juice and wine, then dashed out of the aisle, dashed towards the subject point registers, and at the right hand side of the store. I hope by doing the scanning myself that I will avoid any more of that nerving townsman. May I help you? A watching member of staff asked oppressively, not cooperatively. I'm fine, I said, before wincing at the "Are you over 21?" message on the touchscreen. The supermarket worker took slow strides over to my register, then swiped a card to give me permission. The smiling man stood far too close to me, exhaling puffs of cheese and onions, a pungent aroma that horribly concealed something even worse beneath. I said I didn't manage to place. You hardly look 21, my dear, he softly said, but I'll allow it. I'm 27, a shakily promise, fumbling at my purse for some form of identification. The man shushed me, lifting a finger towards my lips, but stopping just shy of touching them. And as I looked at his face, I saw what I had seen in my own face. The worker inhaled deeply. You will grow. Yes, you'll grow. I twacked my card against the reader, bagged the wine, then strode speedily out of the store, even with my eyes firmly locked upon my shoes. I felt those predatory gazes, the shoppers at first, then the other townsfolk when I exited the store. It was only 10-minute walk home, but it felt longer, perhaps because during those minutes the sun finally dipped over the horizon and plunged the streets into the darkness. The street lamps sprang to life, revealing solitary figures watching me from pavements and front yards. My body moved sluggishly forwards, burdened by heavy gaze, but what truly made the itch on my flesh unbearable was the knowledge that I had seen so little, seen only those caught in the globe of lampposts and headlights. There were undoubtedly figures in the town's unlit pockets, men eyeing me from the shadows. To make it all worse, I returned home to find only my bright orange within cover in the driveway. There was no sign of Chloe's fort, no sign of Chloe. Pick up, I marked stride and failed to ring. You said you were here. She was here, a voice explained. I helped escape as I turned to face the lawn beside mine, turned to face the next door neighbor I'd seen when I first arrived. I was still standing in the front lawn with his two boys, large arms wrapped around their shoulders. They haven't been there all day, I told myself, though I wasn't convinced. There had been something quirky about the sitcom family earlier in the day, but they seemed far more sinister at night. They stood in their blackened front garden, barely illuminated by the nearby street lamp. They had been waiting for me. I pretended, otherwise, but I knew better. I beg your pardon, I asked, voice coming apart at the seams. The father smiled and said, "Your friend, she was here. We invited her inside for a cup of tea." One of the boys stated. The child spoke without a hint of emotion, without a single inflection of any of his words. I found myself thinking of the German boy sitting on the wall, can't explain. It was an instant response, as if my neighbor had foreseen the question and prepared an answer earlier. Oh, that reminds me, you could think. Stepping on my driveway and bringing his eerie smile to the light, she left something for you. The father's hand shot outwards over the molded crack with a cracked screen. I reflexively reached for it before even processing the threat in my gut. I wasn't unnerved by the cracked screen, not even the idea of Chloe keeping her phone to a stranger. No, it was something about the way in which my neighbor spoke, something about the way in which she held out the device, and as my hand met his, something pricked my index finger. I recalled as if a sharp arrow within the creases of his palm had cut me. Mouth gaping, I inspected the bloody droplet forming on my fingertip. It dripped and fell into one of the many cracked wounds on the bone screen. I lifted my fearful face and said, "What happened then?" But the man in his voice had vanished, fled without so much as the sound of crash crunching beneath our feet. Something pained my mind, not just the town, something that poisoned the very colors of the word, something which prompted my soul to primarily scream that I must hide. I ran to the porch, clumsily unlocked the front door, and tried to steady my breathing. "Listen," started a voice from the darkness. I screamed and twisted to see the silhouette of a man in my unlit lobby. I only half registered that the intruder was holding up his hands defensively. "I'm sorry," he said, stepping forwards. "I had to find you first." He may well have said more, but I heard none of it because the world disappeared. Then, an unknown length of time later, a voice from the blackness whispered, "Miss." I heard the familiar stranger before I managed to open my eyes or move my lips, probably for the best, as I would have thought him. He wasn't like the others. I'd known that, somehow, even in the darkness of the lobby, sense it in the man's presence. I didn't say any of this, however. I groaned, unable to produce intelligible words, unable to move my eyelids. He shushed me. "You're safe now." "What is happening?" I finally managed to grunt, opening my eyes. I was able to see that I was sitting in the passenger seat of the stranger's vehicle. "I still didn't know, but it began 6 days ago," he replied. Mr. Robertson entered Brent's Monroe restaurant with a horrid smile and blood-stained overalls. Half the town was there. We were celebrating Margaret's retirement. Anyway, we all thought somebody had hurt Mr. Robertson. A disgruntled customer at his repair shop, perhaps, but it wasn't that. "What was it?" I asked, eyeing the middle-aged driver beside me. The man shrugged. Brent walked over first. He hailed Mr. Robertson, shaking hands, intending to help, but then the owner became just as calm and broad smile as the mechanic. It was all a blur after that. The place descended into chaos. "I don't understand," he said. "No," he replied. "I didn't manage, you would." The man changed, all with a simple touch. "Did you change?" I asked fearfully. "Are you going to hurt me?" The stranger shook his head fiercely. "No, love, I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Tom Lawson, and I'm going to get you out of here." "What's your name?" "Natcha," I said. "What happened to them?" I trailed on, but Tom knew what I was going to ask. My eyes were focused enough to see the outline of his face. I kept facially repeat that he wasn't really unshapen, and the dark silk under his eyes told me that he had never well in days. He eventually said, "I had a wife and 2 boys, Katie, Chad, and Sam." I thought only of them. That was why I didn't stay at the restaurant, why I didn't have anyone. And when I drove through the town, I saw men and boys carrying the limp bodies of wives, mothers, daughters, sisters, but they were as we inspected the dried blood and made finger and it. They didn't want to kill the woman. Nadia, the man explained. They wanted something worse, something no man should want, but they're not men. I reckon you know that by now. I held my head. Tom said, it's spread by skin touching skin. Only the men. I didn't know why. It might be a virus, might be the rapture. All I know is that whatever they were, I didn't want to become it. You don't have to explain yourself, I said. I just want to leave this place. Well, anyway, I came out to find my street in disarray. I don't know how it spread so fucking quickly. Nadia, the man paused for a long time, tears brewing in his eyes. He took my voice. I had no words, so I sat silently. They were waiting for me in the front hallway. He continued, and they told me that they had seen their mother. I wanted to hug them. I did, but they were lying, and they weren't my boys anymore. What happened to your wife? I asked. The man started to sob. I don't know. Why you're still here, Tom? I whispered. Why haven't you left? Where would I go? He replied. I have nothing. No one. I want to redeem myself, Nadia. I want to help those left behind. People hated first. Those not infected. Those not taken. But it caught up to all of them in the end. I haven't seen a woman in days. Not until a few, of course. Rotten timing, he said. He shrugged. I found you before they did. I know. I said. Nothing. I owe you my life. Tom with a hand dismissively. Katie might still be out there. I continued. They might all still be out there. I hope so. He replied before turning to me. That's what keeps me. By the time the car beams lit the figures, it was too late to break. They stood three apiece on a road near the perimeter of town. A road without strip lamps. The barricade of bodies was lit by the headlights only when 200 feet away. And believe me when I said that, while traveling at 50 miles per hour, it takes only a couple of seconds to cover 200 feet. Tom managed only to feed the steering wheel to the left, losing control of the car and colliding with the tree beside the road. The force of the impact didn't leave us unconscious, a small blessing. Given that the three strangers were already approaching our vehicle. Before I even managed to undo my belt, after freeing myself, I placed a hand in my empty window frame, cutting my hands on glass shards. I was grateful that the front bumper on Tom's Jeep had taken the front of the impact, but we were not both unhurt. The driver grunted painfully as we clambered out of the car, watching his abdomen. Then he offered me a bloody smile. I'll keep them occupied, Nadia. Go. I wanted to stay and argue. It was the proper thing to do, but the man, having sustained either minor or major injuries, had already started strolling towards the approaching figures. Either neurodivergence or my flight response kicked into the gear, and I found myself running along the road, running back into town because I didn't fancy my chances with the bulky men who were blocking our escape route. They were frightened cries from behind, and then there weren't. Tom Lawson had been unplugged. His scream did not fade. It instantly died. He chose to stop screaming of his own accord. I know what that meant. I know what happened to him. The road back to town was obstructed by several more men walking towards me. I was being sandwiched by my hungry-eyed watchers. No way out of town. No way back to town. The walk left was only my course. I turned to my right and sprint into the blanket of park, praying that I would find an exit. Find the next town over. I prayed that the town has been sickness early or not. I'm not troubled beyond the bounds of propagate. I fumbled with my phone, turning on the torch, but it was my ears that became aware, not my eyes. I heard not so distant moans, garbled voices around me, not voices of talented men who were pursuing me. No, these were muffled words by your pitch, the cries of women. I cast my torch from side to side, not there to slow or stop, but I found no sign of the captives, and in my fearful search for the missing person, I forgot that my uncoordinated lips do not fare well when I multitask. It was no surprise then when I tripped when I was sent sprawling across the forest floor by one of my feet, tripping the other. I rose quickly, feeling a weightiness in my throat as the sound of men's footsteps loudened. But something at my feet had caught my eye, and when I cast my torch downwards, I shrieked. On the ground were bodies, dozens and dozens of women's bodies. In fact, they were not the ground, they were in it. The missing women that propagate were the dirt beneath my feet, the soil, the undergrowth, or the whatever forms of a forest floor. Their bare flesh, which had been stretched and mangled, merged with soil, long, fleshy tendrils sprouted from their arms, sides, rears, and all other parts of their bodies, as if they had taken root, as if they had become one with the woodland. First of all, townsmen or townswomen were still very much alive. They must have wished they were, for as I looked closer, I realized that each woman tied to another by skin formed group was no longer just one but many. And by that I mean I looked down at the woman below my feet to find her own face looking up at me 4 times. 4 separate faces, each tied to a different part of her body, screamed up at me, not as some united hive mind, but as a 4 separate versions of her. Every face moaned in slightly different way, all moaned with its lip closed, but each expressed itself differently. Smaller faces were nothing but circular mounds that had been propagated from her. They would grow, of course, they would propagate too. What? I thought in horror, wondering where those direful thoughts had originated. Her eyes coated in tears and flakes of mud. She opened her mouth to speak, but spewed only much foliage and blood. Her muffled voice were failed to permeate the greenery spilling from my guts. I knew though she was asking for me to kill her. Much like the hundreds of other street women who were inexplicably part of the forest floor. Hundreds of women who might have numbered thousands, have been multiplied, have been grown new, smaller abominations. I woke from a horrified trance from the crunching footstep of the pursuing men too close to bear. I'm sorry, I whispered tearfully to the woman, hoping the others were there. I hope they would understand at the very least. I felt their tearful eye watching me from below. There was no running around them, only over them. I realized that the nearby squeeze I had heard earlier were the sounds of women being crushed beneath my boots. I hadn't paid attention. The squelching ground beneath my feet had been loose and unstable. It had been moving, breathing, a macabre pool of rippling mud and flesh that nearly swallowed my feet as I ran across them, apologizing and sobbing as I went. The townswomen formed an interconnected blanket of skin and dirt. They were forced not only to become one with nature, but to suffer through that hellishness. I don't know how long I spent playing, an hour, 2 hours, all night, but I know the sun had risen when I finally made it to a small village miles away. I no longer heard the footsteps of men behind me. I had run them. They moved at a glacial pace, seeming to have been slowed by whatever